What is CRT? According to Wikipedia, critical race theory is a cross-disciplinary intellectual and social movement of civil rights scholars and activists who seek to examine the intersection of race, society, and law in the United States and to challenge mainstream American liberal approaches to racial justice. The word critical in its name is an academic term that refers to critical thinking, critical theory, and scholarly criticism, rather than criticizing or blaming people. Teachings of critical race theory arose in the 1970s. During this time, law professors began exploring how race and racism have shaped American law and society. Since 2020, conservative U.S. lawmakers have sought to ban or restrict the instruction of CRT along with other anti-racism education in primary and secondary schools, as well as relevant training inside federal agencies. According to Wikipedia, critical race theory is also used in sociology to explain social, political, and legal structures and power distribution through the lens of race. The critical race theory conceptual framework is one way to study racial bias in laws and institutions, such as the how and why of incarceration rates and how sentencing differs among racial groups in the United States. According to the Brookings Institute, a nonprofit public policy organization in Washington, D.C., critical race theory states that U.S. social institutions including the criminal justice system, education system, labor market, housing market, and healthcare system are laced with racism embedded in laws, regulations, rules, and procedures that lead to differential outcomes by race. Supporters of such bans on critical race theory have been accused of misrepresenting the tenets and importance of CRT and of having the goal of broadly silencing discussions of racism, equality, social justice, and the history of race. So, when did all of the controversy about critical race theory begin? According to Reuters, a global news agency, the term critical race theory gained a foothold after the murder of a black man, George Floyd, in 2020 by a white Minneapolis law enforcement officer. It was after this horrific event that a national spotlight was placed upon ongoing racial tensions in America, and the result was more conversations being had on the subject of race in America. More anti-bias and sensitivity training started to crop up across the country. On September 1, 2020, conservative journalist Christopher Rufo went on Fox News and made disparaging remarks about anti-bias training going on in federal agencies. He described critical race theory as a radical theory that causes division. Soon after Rufo's rant, then-President Donald Trump banned federal agencies and federal contractors from proceeding with such trainings. According to Reuters, parents since have bombarded school board meetings across the country with complaints that critical race theory is being used to promote an anti-white, anti-American worldview through racial sensitivity training for teachers and allegedly biased curricula that indoctrinate impressionable children. This assessment of critical race theory is untrue. Conservative, right-wing activists are spreading untruths that critical race theory is being taught in K-12 schools across the country. According to Kira Bridges, during an interview with KPBS Public Media, students in grades K-12 do not have enough baseline knowledge to engage with critical race theory. Critical race theory is taught in advanced educational institutions, in law schools, for example. Yet, these conservative activists fear that students in grades K-12 are being taught critical race theory during history or social study classes. Simply not true. According to Bridges, conservative activists want to suppress or ban any conversations regarding race and American history. Further, she states that these conservatives do not want any conversation that are less than celebratory. They only want to hear what they deem to be triumphs. Events such as the abolishment of slavery and the passage of the Civil Rights Act. They do not want their children to learn the whole truth. The parts that include America's tragic history. Also, during an interview on KPBS Public Media, Sarah Clark Kaplan, professor of ethnic studies and executive director of the Antiracist Research and Policy Center at American University, states that ethnic studies helps to correct the myth of American exceptionalism by highlighting untold struggles and contributions of people who have been historically marginalized. She added that the goal is to diagnose the situation and to understand that we have a role to play in it, and that we are obligated to understand and change the parts that we do not like. There is no intention or goal to make people feel bad. In closing, as Bridges states, we must ask, do we want our kids to learn the full scope of history? The good, the bad, and the ugly, the unfinished, or do you want them to learn a myth about this country? Further, she states that teaching everything is the only weapon against repeating mistakes of our past.